Bruce and Mindy Mylrea, thank you so much for joining us on the Plant Trainers podcast today.
Thank you so much. We love
Thanks,
being
Shoshana.
here.
Yes.
And you're wearing your cute little veggie shirts. We love that as
We
well.
are. We are. So I'm avocado today.
Spinach.
And Bruce is spinach today.
Bunched spinach.
Bunched spinach. So for those of you...
All he does is talk about nutrition about 3 years ago. So I said, you need to just wear fruits and vegetables. You know, eat them, but also wear them. So that's when we came up with this shirt concept.
That sounds great. And do you have a moment of gratitude to share with us and our listeners?
I do. My husband was diagnosed with prostate cancer 9 years ago, and he's still sitting next to me today. We still are dealing with prostate cancer, but he's thriving in his life, and we just got a new puppy. So my gratitude is being married to this man for 40 years and him sitting by my side right now.
Yeah, I would say my gratitude, I'm so grateful for so many things. We've, as you know, we struggled with quite a bit over the last decade here, but I got to tell you, I'm a happy guy. I'm happy because of the changes I've made in my lifestyle. And I'm just really grateful that the information is out and available now to people who are seeking to improve their health. And I'm super grateful for podcasts like your guys, that these are the for lack of a better term, marketing tools to get the information. It's happened so quickly, just within the last 5 years. The combination of the internet, the ability to access all the science, and the tools like you guys in your podcast to be able to deliver this to the general public is how this information gets out. So that's what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for you.
I was going to say, Bruce, thank you. I was going to say that 10 years ago, I was in a very similar situation that you guys were in. And you mentioned how the information has changed since then and become much more available. How did you find the information back 10 years ago? Was it accessible to you as much as it is today? Or were you like me, where it was like there wasn't anybody else really doing it and it was kind of fresh? What was your perspective at that time?
Well, I've got a great story. I did write about it in my book, A Plant-Powered Approach to Prostate Cancer, but I grew up in the South, in Atlanta, Georgia. And fried chicken is a food group in the South. I'm 62 years old. I grew up in the 60s when the junk food revolution really started to explode. And my diet for my entire life was centered on fried junk food and animal products. You know, I love dairy. I love meat. And how old was I? So I was 52. I was about 40 pounds heavier than I am right now. And I thought I was doing great. We were in the fitness industry. Our business was running on all cylinders, but we were flying constantly. And we were right up till COVID, basically. And Mindy we were flying to South Carolina. And I had highlighted from San Francisco, I'd highlighted all the barbecue places that I wanted to go to because I was a real foodie. And I said, I want to, all this, South Carolina's barbecue capital of the world. Don't listen to Texas, right? They're telling you, I'm going to go. Well, Mindy brought the book, The China Study, with her. And I usually read something, marketing or just trashy novels on an airplane. And you might want to check. I'm going to let you sit down.
Hang on one
real
second.
Quickly, sorry. And I said, what's this? I picked up the book. I read the book, Flying Across the Country. And I was in marketing and sales and in Silicon Valley and the high-tech world. I consider myself to be a pretty smart guy. I was floored that I didn't know any of the information. And I just left a doctor's appointment where he said, your cholesterol is at 276. I'm going to put you on statins. My doctor was giving me all this information, but had not mentioned anything about diet. I never heard anything about the importance of diet. And I read the China Study from page to page, and I was pissed off. So I got on the plane, a lifelong heavy fried meat-eating, dairy-consuming guy, and I got off the plane a vegan. I said, I'm going vegan. Dr. Campbell says I don't need to take statins. I didn't want to go on statins. I'm going to lower my blood pressure myself. So I made myself a lab rat. I dove in. I didn't do it right, but I was determined to do it. And within 6 weeks, I more or less had cobbled together a vegan diet, and I dropped my cholesterol by 100 points in 6 weeks.
Wow.
And that for me, and I was already feeling better. My weight was dropping, and I'm like, I'm sold on this, right? And but then I went in to brag and show my doctor my blood tests, and he goes, "Well, that's really good, Bruce, but your PSA is high." And I said, "Well, what is PSA?" And that's when I started my prostate cancer journey. PSA is the marker for prostate cancer, and it was elevated. Had a digital rectal exam, had biopsy positive, spread outside my prostate bed. I'm very young for being diagnosed with advanced prostate cancer, and that was 9 years ago. I've had surgery, I've had radiation, I've had all the treatments, still battling it today. I had a biopsy, a positive biopsy. The problem now is there's really no way. I've had radiation in the area a couple times, and it's in such a sensitive area. It's localized, it hasn't metastasized, so that's good news, but there's really not a whole lot other than lifestyle right now that I can really do to attack it without risking severe injury. And I'm not willing to do that because I feel fantastic. The crazy thing is I'm battling advanced cancer that could very well kill me, and I've never felt better. And I just continue to feel better as I've modified my diet over the last decade and optimized it. So my only option now is to go back on hormone therapy, which is shutting off testosterone, which is the primary fuel for prostate cancer, as estrogen is for breast cancer in women. But I started doing all the research, and I'm convinced that I had the genetics to be able to develop prostate cancer, but I'm the one that set the fire without knowing it. I don't blame anybody, but the diet I ate is the diet, if you read all the research summaries, is the exact diet that's going to give you prostate cancer. And my message is, listen up, folks. This is not something that happens. This is something that this is a lot modifiable lifestyle thing that's very serious, and you need to address it now. But
it set a fire in Bruce's whole just mission for life. He's sleeping. We have a new puppy, so that's why we keep getting up and getting down. But he, from the China study, he then went on to read absolutely everything. And what you said, Adam, is absolutely true. We were outliers. We still are in many circles outliers, because in our business, the fitness and wellness community, it is still a very new topic. And luckily it's steamrolling. It's getting more and more traction, which is fantastic. But early on, we were definitely not, would you say, shunned? I
think I'm not a certified, I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a doctor, but I did, just like you, Adam, I went through the Cornell course. I review courses for them now. I love the Cornell program. And I got certified through AFPA. It sucked me in. I never realized how interested I was going to get in the science of nutrition, but I'm a data-driven guy, and I just love doing reviewing research studies and looking at it. And I noticed in our industry, we were going to all these conferences, and Mindy is a rock star, training the trainers and group exercise and that type of thing. But I would go to these nutrition lectures and just listen to sponsored garbage. And finally, my head exploded. I go, I'm going to do this because the information that's being provided here is only sponsored and it's not correct. And I don't see anybody providing this critical research information that is the basis of why this is why I did what I did, and this is why this is so important. And that's what we've been doing.
And now Bruce gets standing ovations, and people walk out of his lectures, jaws dropped, because he's fine. He knows.
But I think that the fitness industry, you guys know this, the fitness industry in particular it's awful for. I mean, there are some good high spotlights in nutrition like you guys, but for the most part, it's how many bars and shakes can I sell you? I've got no data to back it up, but here's some more supplements to pile onto your diet while you're trying to lose weight. And it's just the conferences we go to, it just made my head, like I said, it made my head explode. So
I love when I get a PM in my box that says, hey, I think you'd be really great at selling our shakes. You should come join us selling our shakes. And I'm like, really? If you got to know me for 5 minutes, you'd know that I have no interest in selling your shakes. Now, you have given us so much information here, and I want to pedal backwards, and I want to thank you for sharing your story. And we always do thank people, of course, for sharing their story, but your story is so honest. And I think that there are a lot of people in your position, in our position, in the nutrition and fitness world who are not willing to be honest, to say, hey, look, I've made changes and I'm still not perfect, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would hold back the fact that they've been plant-based for 10 years and they're still dealing with cancer today. And I, without putting a shadow on it, to think where you would be if you would not have made those changes, that's exactly what we need to concentrate on. The fact that you are sitting here next to your lovely wife today and here giving this message. I think it is so important for people to be open, and people, because we have a lot of doctors, we have a lot of other health practitioners that listen. You need to be open, you need to be honest, and you need to really look at the facts and understand how much better off. Nothing is a silver bullet, right? Nothing is a silver bullet, but when you can increase your chances by so much.
But that's why I wrote The Plant-Powered Penis, my book, because when every treatment that Bruce had, the doctor pulled me aside and said, get ready, because he's not going to have any erectile function after the chemotherapy and the radiation and the hormone treatment and the prostate removed. Well,
and he's going to be miserable.
Yes. Well, we're 9 years in, and he's in the sexual department, he's spectacular. I mean, really. So I had to write a book about, the Woody I'm sitting next to right here. It is really absolutely opposite. And when your doctor gives you that diagnosis or that
forecast,
correct, then many men just say, oh, okay, because it's my doctor and I listen to my doctor and my doctor is always right. Well, the doctors don't know, most doctors don't have an education in nutrition. So then they can't prescribe food for health and wellness. So that's why I wrote my book, because food has fueled all of the arteries and veins that shoot up and down into the groin. And if you've got ED, erectile dysfunction, that's a canary in the coal mine. That's a little knock on the door saying, hey, dude or dudette, you're going to have maybe atherosclerosis or heart attack or dementia or what.
Early death is knocking on the door.
That's right. So I really want men, especially through this book, to know that your fate is not determined by your doctor. Your fate is determined by everything that you do, the relationship that you have with whoever that loved one is, the foods that you eat, the mental state that you're in, the exercise that you do. It is all encompassing in helping that blood flow throughout your whole body.
I'm shaking.
Right, being on top.
Right.
I'm sitting here shaking my head because you're talking my story, because we were in a very similar place way back 10 years ago. And Mindy, one of the biggest questions I get when I had the beginning stages of heart disease and changed to a plant-based diet, a plant-based lifestyle, one of the questions I get was, did Shoshana do the same? And you mentioned, Bruce, that you read that book on the plane, you got off the plane and you were changing your lifestyle. Mindy, how did that work for you?
Well, it was my book. That was my book I brought on. So, yes, I had started changing prior to Bruce changing. I hadn't eaten red meat for a while, but now we laugh because people say, well, I don't eat red meat, but I eat chicken and I eat fish. And so,
which, by the way, chicken is the number one source of saturated fat and cholesterol in both the Canadian and the American diet.
Right.
Chicken.
Right. So I jumped on board. But Shoshana, just like you said, we're not perfect. We have navigated this over the last 9 years, and we are always tweaking. I mean, it was a few years in that we gave up oil. It was a few years after that we found groats as opposed to steel cut oatmeal. Now we are going lower fat because of all the newest research that we are.
And in addition to that,
out.
I now fast 5 days straight every 5 weeks.
Water only.
I do a water only fast 5 days every 5 weeks.
I do not, because I have to take care
Which
of
is one of the most powerful things on the planet.
So just for the listeners, are you overseen by a doctor for that fasting?
That's a really good question, Shoshana. The answer is no, but I have a lot of experience. 2 years ago, Mindy and I went to the True North Health Center, which you're probably familiar with in Santa Rosa. And Dr. Goldhammer, who runs the center there, convinced me that we might be able to, he said, there's no guarantees, but we might be able to affect how your PSA is accelerating. So I did an 8-day water-only fast. Mindy did a 5-day water-only fast at True North. And I don't know if you are familiar, you're monitored 24/7 there by doctors. It's a research center, and the doctors are constantly knocking on your door. Their guidance is, if you're going to do this, an extended water-only fast, kind of jumping around subjects here, is that more than 3 days, you should be medically supervised. But the majority of the people in their center they've got serious chronic issues that are trying to be reversed. The majority of the people there also are obese. They're overweight, but they have some weight to lose when they steam into ketosis, right, and switch their fuel source. I went in weighing 133 pounds, and Mindy was stick thin too, and it floored us, right? And it was kind of hot, and we struggled through that. But then after that, I go, you know what? I can do this on my own. So I started doing 2 days, then I started doing 3 days, then I did 4 days. Now I do 5 days. It's no problem. I monitor my own blood pressure 3 times a day when I do it, and I know how to do it. But my guidance to anybody is, don't jump into a 5-day fast. Do your research, and I will say that the True North Health Center in particular, I mean, they do phenomenal work. They just cure people of heart disease.
They do amazing work.
And it's amazing what they do.
And we do a lecture at conferences for fasting and different ways to fast, and people who shouldn't fast, and what you should eat when you are not fasting. So we don't want to say advocate fasting without whole food plant-based eating or without conscientious eating before, pre, and after. That's very important as well. And I don't fast when he fasts, because it is, as you said, you do want to be supervised in some form or fashion. So if both of us were fasting, then there isn't somebody there saying, hey.
My body's gotten used to it. I mean, compared to the first times, the first couple of days are difficult because I literally have no body fat, and I go into ketosis very quickly. But when that happens, it's usually after the second day, my energy levels start to go up. I actually went surfing on the 5th day of a water only fast. The last time I did, the surf was good. I'm like, I'm going to go out. I feel fine, and I was just sitting there staring like I can't go because I'm fasting. I mean, why not? I feel good. And I went, and it was great.
But we do not advocate
Don't advocate
that. I do not advocate that.
No, I don't either. I intended to do a 5-day fast. The first day I was a little cranky. The second day I was out there playing catch ball, joining my team. By day 4.5, Adam and I looked at each other and were like, yep, time for me to eat. And I called it, and I gave up my ego because I needed to do what was safe for me, because I needed to be a mom, not a momzilla when my kids came through the door at 4:00, right? There were lots to consider, but I did hear that as you try it more and more, it does become a little bit easier. But the main issue here is you need to really pay attention to what you eat going into it, what you eat coming out of it, and understand what you're doing and do the research or have the proper guidance. And if you're going to have a diet, a southern fried diet all year round, and do some fasting to offset it, you're not going to get yourself very far.
Like cleaning out your closet and then going and throwing everything back in the closet. It doesn't work. But at True North, they send you a 5-day down feeding schedule, and then they have a refeeding schedule where you stay at True North and you refeed there as well.
And as far as I'm concerned, the 5-day down feed is 5 days of fasting.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Really?
it quickly moves into juice. Yeah, it's like 500 calories a day, 5 days before you,
The
and then you
pictures
get,
of their food look so good.
oh, their
So
food is
good. The food
so
is
good
so
there. Oh
delicious.
my
Oh,
God.
and it's all SOS, no salt, no sugar, no oil, and all whole food plant based.
And
And
they have a deli where they make the food, put it in to-go things, and put it in a free, in the lobby they have there. People just in the street just come by. They can't keep the food that they make on the shelves just for people
we
passing
I
bought
by,
think we should
right?
we
go
bought
just to eat.
we bought like 5 days worth of food when we left there. We ate all of it the first day. Everything.
Every time we talk about True North, and we talked about it with Chef AJ when she was on the show a couple of times, we always say that we should go and check it out, and just to be there, just to see what's going on and experience it and see how we could get even healthier than we already are. So
No.
I'll link to her show in our show notes because that was a good conversation too. I want to come back, Bruce, to the prostate cancer because prostate cancer is one of the most prevalent cancers in North America. And not a lot of people really know when they have it or how to know that they have it. And I know that you could check the PSA levels. Are there any other signs or symptoms that people should be aware of if this could be something that's affecting so many people?
A great question, Adam. I wish there was a real simple answer for that. Unfortunately, prostate cancer is asymptomatic up until
It metastasizes.
typically metastatic,
Yeah.
and then when it's metastatic, it's just like any cancer. It's almost impossible to
And it
control.
likes bone. So it goes to bone.
But there are some common symptoms to be aware of early on. Is like difficulty urinating frequently, burning urination, blood in your urine. And I would say those are the top three urinary related issues because as cancer grows, or you might have a benign prostate, I can't remember the acronym, but it's it's swelling of your prostate just because it's not in a healthy state. It's not cancerous. But both cancer and that situation can put pressure on your bladder. So if you notice a different in your urination frequency or in pain, just be aware of that. And we should all be keeping good track of our bowel functions because it's super important, right? Beyond that, like, metastatic, that's when you might start to feel if the prostate cancer typically likes to go to bone. And so lower back pain, like a very typical pathway is through your lymph nodes and your abdominal cavity into your lower back and your spinal column and your rib cage. So that's a lot of times where you feel pain. But if you're there, you got a very serious situation. I personally have experienced no symptoms. 10 years, when I had surgery to have it removed, the cancer is like, wow, it's 80% and it's outside your, this is advanced, right? No symptoms, none whatsoever. 10 years after that, you know what my symptoms are? My brain it's all mental ill. I got to maintain my mental health. That's what's so hard for me. It just drives me crazy that I feel fantastic and I'm on these phone calls with these fantastic doctors, the best on the planet. They said, well, I don't know what you can do. All right, well, I'll double down. I'll fast 10 days.
But it's given us a mission. It really has to be a mouthpiece for what men and women can do health related. And
let me finish, Adam. Yeah. If you're African American, you're at higher risk. And I'm sure there's a genetic component there, but I know that African Americans have traditionally, like me, from the South, have eaten more of a meat, dairy, and fried type of diet, and African Americans are also more susceptible to more aggressive types of prostate cancer. So if you're African American, you're at higher risk. So all the research to date, and you guys know this, and I wrote in detail about it in my book, all of it, from the ecological research to the epidemiological research to the randomized controlled clinical trials to people like me that are saying, you got to do this right now. If you're do this, right? We know. And if you look at the prostate cancer rates in Canada and the United States and New Zealand and Australia and Europe compared to the rest of the world, it's 100 times more.
But
And
why? Why is that? Because
I can't. Well, no one can say for sure. But then if you correlate it with the diet, these are observational studies, but they're massive studies, right? I mean, the physicians' follow-up study is huge. Like 50,000 men in that study followed for 10 years. Eat more chicken and eggs, put yourself at additional risk. Very, very clear, concise correlation.
Dairy.
There. Dairy, huge correlation with dairy. Also discovered in the European perspective investigation into cancer. Strong, tight correlation. More dairy, more prostate cancer. And then you look at the people that don't get it and what they're eating. Okinawa Japanese traditionally. They're some of the lowest prostate cancer rates in the world. Also, Seventh-day Adventists, some of the lowest prostate cancer rates around the planet. What are they eating? They're all eating a plant-based diet.
So, but I hear one of our new listeners saying to themselves right now, here's Bruce. He found out he had prostate cancer. He had to go through all these treatments and removals and surgeries, and he's still going through it now. So why should I even bother to change my diet if I already have it? And it's not going to just go away like that. Is it really necessary because I love eating that food?
That is such a great question.
That's the $1 million question right there, Adam. And all I can say is I probably wouldn't be here eating that. I mean, I was just fueling it. I was fueling my cancer with all the wrong foods, and I loved it, and I had no idea. I didn't want to change my diet. The last thing I love the way I eat. But I was determined. If you're determined, my question is this, how important is your health? And I know how hard it is. Dr. Goldhammer will say, what's the best motivator for changing your diet? Fear of
an early death.
Fear of an early death.
But the doctors, when the doctors talk to Bruce, they'll say, do you have pain? Bruce says, no. Do you get any erections at all? And Bruce says, at all, every day. And then they'll say, well, how do you feel? I feel fantastic. And they all are flummoxed.
And I have worked with so many men. They get on androgen deprivation therapy, is hormone therapy. It shuts off the messaging from your pituitary gland to your gonads to make testosterone. It's basically chemical castration. I've been through it twice, 2 years worth. It shuts off. It's not that you can't get it up and have sex. It's like you can care less. I can get it up. I don't do whatever you want. I'm not interested.
You got a lot of work done during
That's
that
what
time.
happens. So and it also makes you tired. It makes you gain weight. It increases your risk for heart disease. It increases your risk for it just is everything. It's everything else on top of a standard American diet, right? That's going to already create those problems. You got to do it to counteract. Mm-hmm. And look at the research on androgen deprivation therapy and plant-based nutrition, and there's research coming out now. So you can power through this where it's just waylaid men.
So most men can't handle it. They can't handle it.
Chemotherapy,
because of the side effects. Bruce didn't have any of the side effects that most 99.9% of the men have because of his will to counteract.
And the other thing I tell men is that are in my situation is, regardless, I feel so much better now. I feel better now than I did when I was 30. I'm in better shape. I have better mobility, flexibility. So does Mindy. It's all the food. And you have to optimize your physical condition when you're going into these chemotherapy, radiate. They all slam your energy and lay you low and way laced to your sex life.
Well, it's not just that one area of the body, right? It's getting other areas too, and it's affecting your overall cellular health. Do you know what the survival rate is normally for people with your diagnosis, like a 5-year survival rate or anything like that?
Well, the survival rate for if it hasn't, we don't know if I have metastatic cancer or not. I might have micrometastases, but we just found in my prostate bed, where the prostate was, additional cancer, biopsy proven cancer. So in that case, they would say, well, you might have 5 years, you might have 10 years, you might have 20 years. We're not really sure. But when metastatic or distant metastasis is detected, it's typically you have less than 5 years to go.
So what we can say is give up the animal products for a year, give it up for 6 months, give it up for 2 years. If you're not getting side effects from all the different procedures that you're having, if you feel better, if you're loving life, you could continue on that path. If in 6 months or 1 year from now, you feel like you're at a disadvantage for some odd reason because you're eating a plant-based diet, those foods are still waiting for you in the grocery store, right? You can always go back to that. But if you don't give it a try, you will never know. And if you
You'll never know.
You will never know. And if you can increase your chances of feeling better or living longer, why wouldn't you do that? You have to keep your head strong so that your head can make that decision and not spiral out, is basically what I heard you saying before.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's mental health, plant-based nutrition for mental health is key. I also meditate every single day, so which I think is really powerful. And I'm married to an absolutely wonderful human being, which is the most important thing. And I got 3 grown boys that all have great careers, and I want to be around to. Hopefully, I'll have some grandkids, and I just got a puppy, so I got to be here for the puppy. But I wrote in my book, Dr. Gordon Sachs at UCSD, University of Southern California. A lot of people know about Dr. Dean Ornish's randomized controlled clinical trial showing you could actually slow the growth of early stage prostate cancer simply by transition. It's the first randomized controlled clinical trial, gold standard. Dean Ornish, UCSF, we slowed the growth of the cancer. You go on this diet, it slows down. You go on this diet, it speeds up, right? Well, Dr. Gordon Sachs at UCSD did a very similar randomized controlled clinical trial. It's in my book, smaller population, so not as powerful of a study, but still a randomized controlled clinical trial for men who had recurrent biopsy-proven prostate cancer, exactly like myself. Only research study I was able to find that with my group like this. Same outcomes, slowing in a randomized slowing growth in the men that stayed on the diet and the men that did not, the growth of their cancer increased. So I know, I'll say this, it's the most powerful tool I have. It's more powerful than chemotherapy. Hormone therapy, it's not going to cure cancer. It just keeps it at bay for a while and that stops working. It's my most powerful tool, period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Period. And I will go so far as to say I probably might have been better off having no medical intervention whatsoever and diving in and making this transition because of the stage of my cancer. Now, early stage prostate cancer typically is 95%. You can cure it with surgery or radiation because if it's maintained in the prostate bed.
But it's hard because you don't know how much is in there. So the doctor told us that it was contained and there wasn't anything outside of the prostate bed, and we'll just suck it out of there with a robot, and then everything will be fine. You'll go back to your normal lives.
The last thing I want to say about that is, guys our age, you're younger, but you're still a guy, similar situation. Guys our age, the last thing they want to do is change their diet, But a cancer diagnosis is an opportunity to make change in your life. And if nothing else, we developed One Day to Wellness, our nonprofit, just to help people like this, to let them know, first of all, don't be scared. There's nothing to be scared of. It's not a this or that. It's not all or nothing proposition, but I will say this. If you're on fire like I was, make big changes, feel big results quickly. And you're going to get good feedback. You're going to get positive feedback that the sacrifice I'm making to not eat a cheeseburger and French fries, I got more energy. I woke up feeling great today,
Every day.
And every day it gets a little, if you can make all the changes all at once with the right tools, like with you guys helping them or someone like us who has experience and being able to guide them, you're going to feel it, and it's going to motivate you to continue and move in that direction. And I know you feel the same way, and ain't none of us going back.
No way.
No going back.
And that one person that I was talking about that was listening to this conversation, asking that question, is now saying, okay, you got me. I'm interested, but what's the easiest way for me to transition to a plant-based diet? Because I don't know where to start. So how would you handle that?
Every day. The first thing you do is you find out what they like to eat, and then you find alternatives. But the other thing that we do in our One Day to Wellness program is we cement the why, And then we build on the how on top of that. So you just can't put somebody on a diet because they don't know why they are doing what they're doing. So you have to compel them with the why, and you have to find their triggers. What is your trigger? Is it animal cruelty? Is it your health? Is it the environment? Whatever it happens to be. But you also have to find those alternatives, because people will say to us, oh, I can't give up my cheese. I love cheese. And I'll say, oh, I'm going to teach you how to make the most glorious cashew cheese on the planet. Or they'll say, I love my burger. Oh, well, I've got a solution for that. So you just have to find solutions to their pushbacks, right? And make it easy for them. That's the other thing too, is you need to have shortcuts and make it easy, because someone coming in that doesn't ever cook, then they need to have alternatives there too. So you have to have, your quiver is full of all those arrows that you can shoot back at them when they shoot something at you that I can't do it. I just can't do it.
So we have a in our program, we call it greens, and guilty pleasure. So if someone who's like, I get it. First of all, if they say, I understand, but I don't know what to do, that for me, that's come on. I'll show you exactly what I'm here to help you, right? But getting them to that point is like a touchdown. And then it's like, well, come on over and let's start making food. You're going to find out just how delicious this food actually is. So if you can get in front of them and start helping them cook, convince them that they can eat, make delicious food at home.
Last weekend, we were at the CanFitPro conference in Toronto. Well, we weren't there. We were virtually there. And Bruce and I were leading a training called Cooking with Bruce and Mindy. So it was a 1-hour cooking class. They got the menu beforehand, and then we provided them with how to make it, and then also answered a lot of questions. We had 300 people. 300 people came in to that hour.
So I think it's becoming well known how important this is, which is great. And now the next step, the next iteration is really, let's show people that it's not that difficult and it's delicious. And that's really we're trying to focus right now. That's why we've got tons of videotaped recipes on our website, all oil-free and just delicious food.
And we live in a fruit and vegetable covered RV, 32 feet, that is covered in fruits and vegetables. And we take this to all the conferences, and then we open it up and we offer stew or soup or black bean brownies or whatever it is, so that people can come in and taste and also learn something.
The number of resources that are available today versus 10 years ago is a totally different planet. And the books that you guys put out, A Plant-Powered Approach to Prostate Cancer and The Plant-Powered Penis, are two more great resources for people to get. And we're going to link to them in our show notes. For our audience who wants to reach out to you, where would be the best place for them to go?
The best place is our website. We are a nonprofit, so it is One Day to Wellness, so all spelled out, .org, so .org. You can personally email us at info@onedaytowellness.org. And then all my fitness videos are on YouTube, and we have so many resources on our website. We have free recipes and free workouts and a free blog and newsletter and all of that.
Perfect. So thank you guys so much for being with us. But really, I want to thank you for sharing your personal story and being so open and honest about where you've been and where you're going and how you're managing life right now. So we appreciate you joining us on the Plant Trainers podcast. We're going to link to everything you just mentioned in our show notes at planttrainers.com. And we can't wait to talk to you again so soon.
Well, I hope maybe next time we'll be able to sit face to face and have the discussion.
Well, that will be nice. Yeah. Next year in Toronto.
If we could ever get back into Canada.
Yeah, we missed Toronto.
You can't go to Canada, you can't go to Mexico. We're isolated.
Well, let's not get into that.
No, we will not.
It was a lot of fun, you guys.
Thank you so much.